This tutorial is going to demonstrate how to create a funnel in 2.0 using the easy single question outcome mapping template. So here I am at the bucket dashboard. I'm going to go to templates in the top navigation. Once this page opens up, if you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to be looking for the purple one, this QFMC easy single question outcome mapping template. You can click the preview button, which is going to allow you to click through each component. So basically you'll start with the pre-quiz welcome page. You'll go through all of the questions. You'll be able to see the lead capture pages and then ultimately the post-quiz outcome pages. So there's really no question as to what you're getting into when you select a template because you can click through piece by piece. If you click this little button here, this is going to allow you to go right into the canvas. If you hit select and customize, if you hit see funnel flow, you'll be able to look at the diagram to see exactly how this is mapped out. So I've already started this one, so I'm just going to go back up to funnels in the top navigation. And once you start creating funnels, this is where they're all going to live. And then I'm just going to find this edit button, the green button here, and we're going to open up into the canvas. So here you can see the whole funnels kind of zoomed out here, but this basically shows you all of the different components that are making up this funnel that you're going to be editing and building. All of the components are over here. There's really not much you need to do with that because there's so many components already added. So it's important to note with a canvas is basically just the section where you're building the flow. You're grabbing these components, which are kind of like the building blocks of the funnel, and you're just creating this, the basic framework of the funnel itself. But because you're using a template, you can see all of these components are already added. All you have to do is go in and edit the different components. So we're gonna act as if we're just using this template as it is for now. And I want you to focus on this piece first. So the whole point of this funnel is to take your audience list and to break them down, segment them off, and put them into different buckets. So that is going to happen here in the quiz results component. So again, with this template, this element is already here. It is defaulting to mapping. So there's two different ways that you can take your participants and get them to their respective buckets. Mapping is one option, which is the easiest option, which we recommend to go with. The other option is scoring. So we're not going to touch on that for now. We're just going to focus on mapping. So this quiz results piece, you have to think of this as a sort of behind the scenes fork in the road that your participant is going to be going through. So they will never see this. They won't see these names. They won't know what they are in this particular section. So there's nothing to edit. You don't have to add an image to this. You don't have to change the color. All you have to do is, of course, first determine what your buckets are going to be. And in this particular example, has 5. So if you were coming in here and maybe you're only going to have 4, one thing that you would need to do is go down here, locate this trash can, and just hit the delete. So that'll remove one. So you don't have to worry about that. If you're going to have more than 5, you just want to add a new bucket down here. One thing that you will have to do for sure is go into each of these and you're going to have to rename them. And that's very easy to do. I'll just scroll in here on bucket 1. You can see as you hover over it, this pencil pops up. You just click in there. And my first bucket is going to be a storyteller. So for this particular example, I'm going to be taking content as if, I believe the hook of my quiz is what is your content creator type? So everything's going to kind of relate to that. And I'm just doing that so that you can see what it looks like when you're adding different content. So storyteller is my bucket 1. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to delete this one. My next one is demonstrator. And so on and so forth. You would just work your way through and edit each of these as you need to. And I do recommend kind of going through this and making sure that you have all of your content squared away before you begin. So what I did is I went to this funnel worksheet that I have and I laid out all the different buckets that I have. And then I also went through and laid out all of my questions as well. So that way I can just kind of copy and paste all of my content. So once you've worked through and you set up all of your buckets, Now it's time to focus on the questions. And the reason we do the buckets before the questions is because it becomes a lot easier to create your questions if that's something that you're struggling with after you've already set up your buckets. So again, we do recommend coming in here first, just changing this piece really quick. And then I'm going to zoom out and we're going to head over here to the questions. Just going to zoom in really quick so you can see this, okay? So we're starting at question 1. A couple things on this. Again, I do recommend kind of sitting down, whether you like to write something on a piece of paper, use a Google Doc, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever works for you. I've got this handy dandy worksheet up here where I basically just have all of my questions already written out. So it makes it very easy when you're in buckets to go ahead and edit the questions that you have. So you can, if you hover over question 1, you could click on this pencil and edit the question here, but then you're going to have to go question by question. So there's an easier way to do it, and I encourage you to do it this way. If you hover over the bottom of this question, you'll see this pencil and pad pop up, and it says Edit in Builder. I'm going to click in there. And now your question editor pops up. So all you have to do here is just click in this box. Have you ever taken this quiz before, or is this your first time? This is just a nice, easy, grease the wheels question. So mine is over here. I'm just going to grab this, copy, head back over to bucket. I'm just going to paste it in. Again, there's nothing wrong with just typing in your questions if that's kind of how you prefer to work, but I do think it just works a lot easier if you have some kind of document with all of this written down prior to. So then these are your answer options. I'm just going to delete the one that's there. I'm heading back over to my worksheet. I'm going to copy this and just paste it in. Not yet started running ads. Looks like the style carried over. There we go. And there you have question 1 is all set to go. You'll see up here as well, there are a lot of different things you can do. If you need to undo something or redo something, those options are there. You can add emojis to your questions or your answers if you choose, and then you can make something bold. There's all kinds of styling you can do to this. You can look at the different sizes and the different font families that we have here as well. Not going to really get into all of that, but if that's something you want to play around with, you can certainly do that. So then over here, I do want to point out, so there's kind of 2 sections here. You have your question properties and your pop-up properties. So your question properties are everything that relates to the question itself. The pop-up properties are stylizing the actual box. So you can kind of change the shape of it, the shadow, all of that good stuff. There we go. So if you want a main image, you can just slide this toggle over. If you want to add images to the different choices, you slide that on over here, and I'll show you that in another question. Randomized choice order, this is very important. We do recommend kind of randomizing the choice order just to kind of throw off your participants so they don't start to kind of get where their question or their answers might be taking them in terms of a bucket or an outcome. And then if you want people to be able to skip, you can slide that over as well. So then I'm just going to show you pop-up properties also. So this is where, again, you can use a box shadow if you want. There is a shadow on this now. You can change the color. You can turn this off if you just don't want a shadow. Easily turn it back on. Progress bar, we do recommend having that. You can see here the color is purple. So all you have to do to change that is click in here, select the color that you want, and then close it out. And then you can even change where it's starting from. So this one is starting at 10%. You can bump that up if you want. The thing to note is that everything is highly, highly customizable. So you can keep this as simple as you want and just use everything that we've built into the template. There's nothing wrong with that. We have complete confidence in the way that this is built already. But if you want to go in and change things, we encourage you to do that as well. You can add a next button here, a back button. You always just want to think about mobile optimization though when you're making changes like that. And then that kind of covers it for the pop-up properties. So then from here, so I've got question 1 done. My next step would be to hit this little arrow right up here. And now you can see all of your questions are laid out here. So this is going to allow you to stay in the builder rather than jumping from the canvas to the builder to the canvas to the builder. You just go to question 2. And again, do the same thing that I did in the last one. You're going to take the question that's there, delete the content. I would go over to my spreadsheet, or if you're just going to type it in, that's perfectly fine too. And you would update question 2. So you just continue to work through this. You can add other options if need be. If you need to delete something, you just hover over here. You can delete a choice. You can duplicate a choice if you want. If you have, like, if they're all kind of the same style, if you will, it might be easier just to duplicate them. It's completely up to you. I'm going to go to question 3 because this is my image question. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how to swap out this image because this is important as well. So if you hover over the image, you'll see this little menu here with the 3 dots. So there's a couple different options here for you. You can easily swap the image or just change it. If you want to remove it altogether, you click that. Again, you can duplicate the choice to kind of save you some work, and you can delete the choice as well. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this image. I've already uploaded one that is the correct size. So I'm just going to click this. Select image. I'm going to change the crop just a little bit. Send to that. I'm happy with that. Hit confirm. And then you can see it's updated. And you would just work through, again, each one, change the image, and then click on your answer options as well to update those. So it's much easier this way. Again, just go through step by step. So a little pointer I have for you, maybe you don't have 10 questions, that's perfectly fine. Maybe you have just 8 questions. So what I would do at this stage is I would go to question 9, and I'm just going to make a little, you can either use, maybe you just want to use an asterisk or whatever you choose to do, but I'm just going to type in delete. This is going to let me know that I need to go when I'm in the canvas to delete this question because I'm just simply not using it. And I'm going to go down to question 10, and I'm going to do the same thing there. And now when I pop back to the canvas, I'm going to hide my components for now because I don't need them. I'm going to scroll back out. I'm going to locate those 2 questions that I needed to delete, which are right here. Just going to delete this guy. And I'm going to delete this one as well. So this brings me to our little warnings up here. So as you probably noticed before, all of these lines were gray and the tabs were gray, and now they've turned to red. I'm going to slide this over just a little bit. And that's because there's no connection. So Bucket does not just assume the natural progression or flow of your funnel. You do actually have to make the connection yourselves. And when there's kind of an open connection or there's not a closed loop, you're going to have a warning up here and it'll be red. So I've got 6 that I need to do. So it's very simple to fix that. All you need to do is just connect these over. And you'll see that my warnings are starting to tick down over here. So if ever you have warning signs, you just want to look for the red tabs, and all you need to do is just kind of close the loop, finish the flow, and get those connections made, and now you're down to 0. And it is important to note to pay attention to that, because once you get done, you will not be able to publish if you do have any of those warnings. So now, since I've showed you kind of shown you how to update the questions, now we're going to focus on that single question mapping. So you started out by building your quiz results, just basically going to that section, renaming your buckets after you've determined what they are. You can delete them if you need, add more to that section if need be. Now you have to go back, and since this is just a single question outcome mapping template, there's really only one question in this whole flow that is going to dictate what bucket your participant falls into. We call this the diagnostic question. So this question right here is going to diagnose which bucket they go to. So I'm going to scroll in on this a little bit. this is the difference between one that has mapping and one that does not have mapping. So that's just something to pay attention to as well. And just note that you won't see this icon unless you've already added your quiz results onto the canvas. So what I'm going to do is scroll in here, and I do recommend when you're using a template and there's already mapping set up to go in and just clear it out, because you want to make sure that you're establishing the mapping yourself, just to make sure that everything is connected in the correct way. So I'm just going in, I'm deselecting all of these. So now I'm going in, and if somebody answers that they're a zebra, I'm just going to click here, and it's literally just a matter of sort of connecting the dots. So a zebra is going to be my bucket 1, they're my storyteller. So you select the one that you want, and then you click out into the canvas anywhere on the gray section, and then you'll go down to option 2. If your answer, you're a baby koala, they're going to go to demonstrator bucket 2. See, this is very, very easy to set up. Clicking on the gray, click back in here. This is going to be my bucket 4, and then bucket 5. So now those are orange again, so they're indicating that you do have these answers mapped to buckets. I'm going to scroll out again, head over here, and then this kind of allows you to check and make sure that every bucket has a question attached to it, and that is indicated right here. So it's 1, 1, 1, and you're all set. So that is how you do just a single question outcome mapping in Bucket. Very simple, very straightforward. So now we've kind of got the basics built of the different components. Everything was added to the canvas. We've sort of manipulated the questions, ensured that the mapping is correct. So once you've got all of that set up in the way that you need, I'm going to go over here. There's one other thing I'm going to show you. So in a couple instances, it might make sense for you to maybe create what we call branching logic or skip logic. And that is when you're basically creating a different path for a participant based on how they answered a question. And if that's the case, it's quite easy to do. I'm going to add this back because I need to see my questions. So we've got this drag and drop functionality. So all you need to do is basically find the question type that you want to use. So I'm going to recommend using a radio question. So say that if somebody on this particular quiz, if they say, when it comes to online advertising, have you already started running ads or have you not started running ads? So maybe if I have someone that answers that they have not yet started running ads, I want to send them to a different question. So I'm not going to send them to this question. I'm going to create a different path for them. And it's very easy to set up. All you do is select your question type. I'm clicking on it. I'm dragging it over. And then I would just type in my question here. And then of course, add your answer options below. You can see I went back to 3 warnings because I need to make some connections here. So then I'm going to delete this connection because as I indicated, I want to send them, if they're not running ads yet, I'm going to send them to this question. And it might seem a little confusing to you in the back end that they're going from question 1 to question 9 to question 3, but just note that your participant is not going to be seeing the numbers. So you really don't have to be too concerned about that. You just have to be more concerned about making sure that your path is created the way that you want. So then from here, you know, if you needed to add another question, there was a different question that you want to ask after that, you just drag it over, add it to the canvas. Again, make sure that your connections are made. And then maybe after they've answered these 2 questions, then you're going to go ahead and rejoin everybody at the same spot at this question up here. And now I'm back to 0 warnings. So you can see here how I created a different path for this participant, but you just have to make sure, it's very, very important that once you branch off a specific group or a participant, you just have to make sure there's a logical way and that you establish the way that they're going to get back, and you know, so that the paths converge again, because that is very important. So now that we've got all that set up, I'm going to scroll out, I'm going to go back, and we're going to start doing some styling, some design work. So this is where you're going to kind of make sure that everything in your funnel kind of aligns with your brand's identity if you have one. If you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. But this is just going to allow you to kind of do the fun stuff like adding your logo, a background image, changing out the colors, things like that. So we're going to be leaving the canvas. I'm going to scroll into the pre-quiz page and I'm going to click edit, and you're going to see that we are now moving into the builder. So I'm just going to touch on a few elements here to show you how to make some changes to this. So beginning at the top, you're going to have to change out this logo because it is generic, and all you need to do to change this out is double click. And then now you can see here, I've already got a bunch of images saved to my Bucket account because I have been building funnels for a little while now. So every time that you click here to upload an image, Bucket is going to store it in your account and it's going to follow you to every single funnel, which is really handy. So if you get your logo in there, if you get some like stock images that you love to use, those are going to be at your fingertips all the time. So I'm just going to select my Bucket logo. I'm going to hit confirm, and here it is. So it's a little bigger than I wanted. So what I'm going to do is just click on this. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit, and I'm happy with the way that that looks. Now moving on, as you can see, there's a lot of purple and yellow in this template. Nothing wrong with those colors, but I am going to go ahead and change some of this out. So I'm just going to make sure when you're making the different edits here, and I guess it's important to notate, when you're in the builder, there's two different sections. So there's components, which are basically starting at the top, it's the layout organization. When you're using a template, you don't really have to be too mindful of this, at least not adding these components with the drag and drop functionality, because they're already there for you. So you are going to have to worry about making sure that you're in the right component to edit each section, but you probably don't have to add a whole lot. So then once your basic components are here, or your layout organization, then you have to add the basic components on top. So like for this particular column, this column was added, and then an image was added inside so that we could add the logo to it. So these are kind of the building blocks. On the left here is what you have to think of, but again, we've already done all the hard work for you. So you want to focus more on the properties, which is right here, these little tools. So this is where you're going to be kind of getting down into the nitty gritty. And again, this is all highly, highly customizable. So you can basically change every single component, every element that you see on this page. We do recommend as you're starting out to just keep things simple, you know, just to make a few tweaks that you need to, but I'm going to demonstrate how to do some of that now. So if I want to get rid of this purple color, it's important to me. I can see that I am highlighting a row, which is good. And I just want to make sure that this blue line is covering that whole section that I'm going to edit. So I'm just clicking in there and I can see that I have this whole purple section highlighted. Now that I'm in properties, I'm going to scroll down. And this is that background image here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete that. And I think I'm just going to leave that empty. I actually don't mind how that looks. If you wanted to add a color, you could just click here and then you would select a color there. Oops, I ended up changing that anyway. Let me go back to that. Let's go ahead and make that super light. There we go. And then now for this yellow. So again, you can see that I have the row highlighted. I'm just going to click in there. The background color changed to that yellow. Please note too that if you have your hex codes, excuse me, if you have your hex codes, you can just paste them in here as well. I'm going to pick the color selector and I'll just do a gray, maybe something even lighter. And if you're using specific colors a lot, they're just going to save up there so that everything will match, which is really handy. And then maybe I'll change this button color as well, do a little bit darker. So again, very easy to change. And then over here, we have a countdown timer. So you're just making sure that the label says countdown, that you've highlighted this. I'm going to go back over to properties. I'm going to scroll all the way up. And right here is your section where you can edit the time. So this is set to 15 minutes, which we kind of recommend. And then there's a couple options here. You can change the text on what you want it to say when the countdown ticker has gone to 0. You can also set up a redirect. So if they do click in that box, they're going to be taken somewhere else. So you would just click redirect page, And then you would go ahead and put your link here. A couple different links you might want to do, like a scheduling link, or if you're trying to get people to sign up for a webinar, maybe this link would take them to the replay, whatever you choose to do. And again, that's completely optional. So that kind of shows you how to edit this header up here. And now I'm going to move on to this main background image. So again, I'm just going to head down here to make sure that I've got the whole thing highlighted, and I confirm that this whole section is highlighted in blue. So I'm going back to properties, which I'm already at. I'm going to scroll down and look for the background image. I'm going to click that. So I'm going to add something here. I'm just going to click on images once I click on background. And again, I've already selected my image. I'm going to use this one right here. It's a kind of a mountainscape with a lake and a reflection. I'm just going to click that and hit confirm. So now you can see, you saw the preview of the image and it doesn't look quite the same. So there's a few things that you can do if your image doesn't show up exactly as you were expecting. I'm going to go back to this layer. I'm just going to click in here, and there's a couple different settings here that you can adjust. Starting with background repeat. So this is on repeat. I don't want any part of my image to repeat. I just want it to show the whole thing. So I'm going to click this drop down and hit no repeat. The background position is left top. That's why I'm not seeing the whole image. So again, I'm going to click this drop down and I'm just going to hit center center. So now you can see it's changed a little bit. It's still not exactly what I wanted. This background attachment scroll, I'm going to leave that as is. But this part's very important. The background size, right now it's to auto, and I'm just going to have it cover the whole section. And now you can see that is kind of more what I was looking for. So then again, you would just click this box if I wanted to change out this color. I'm going to delete that. I'm actually just going to leave it without. Now I'm going to show you how to edit the text because this will be important as well. I'm just going to double click in here. All you have to do is highlight the text that's there, and you can see as soon as you double click in the text box, the text editor pops up. So you can put this to the left, you can center everything, you can right justify, you can change the font size, the font type, all kinds of options here. So I'm just going to delete what's here. And then I would type in a new headline right there. And maybe I'll show you how to center it. There you go. Just put that back to the left because I think it looks a little better. So all you need to do is just work through section by section. Each text block that you see that you need to edit, you're just going to double click. If you need to change the whole thing, just highlight the whole thing, delete it, and add the text that you need. For your quiz button, again, click on the button, make sure the label says button, the whole thing is highlighted. You're going to click in here, and I'm just going to go for that gray color that I've been liking. If you happen to see a section that you want to eliminate altogether, it's very easy to do. Just know that once it's gone, you would have to drag over the components and sort of rebuild it again. So just make sure that if you do highlight a whole section and you hit this trash can here, the whole thing's going to disappear. Now moving on to social proofs. If you don't have any social proofs and this is a section that you don't need, no big deal. Just highlight the whole thing, hit the trash can, and again, the whole thing will disappear. So maybe you only have 4. You only need 4 spaces for any logos or publications that you've been in, any clients that you've worked with, anything like that. All you have to do is just click on it, hit delete, and then you can see that the rest are adjusted. So it's very easy to change. And then if you need to swap these out, you just double click, you would scroll through your collection or click here to upload from your desktop and they'll swap out. Moving on, this is the bio section. Again, I'll show you how to swap out an image. I'm just double clicking on this. I'm going to scroll down. I've selected this image. I'm going to hit confirm. You can see it's populated there. One thing that I haven't shown you how to do yet is change the text color. So maybe I'm not, a huge fan of this purple. So you're just going to make sure that this box is highlighted. You're going to scroll down. You're going to look for font properties in the properties section. There's a lot of different things you can do here. You can change the font size, the font family, and then the color, of course, is right down here. And I'm just going to change that to black. And you can see that it's updated there. So again, working your way through, just grab this text, change it any way that you need to. This is another image down here. If you don't have an image to replace it with, that's fine. We do recommend, adding some kind of graphics. If you have a friend who's a graphic designer, if you can hire somebody to do a quick graphic for you, you can put graphics there. If not, no big deal. You can just delete that. And then again, you would just work through, how to change the button colors already. Again, any section you don't want, you can just simply eliminate altogether. And then I do want to touch on the links down at the bottom. So if you don't have an About Us section to link to, or terms of service or privacy policy for your business, that's perfectly fine. You would just delete this whole section. If you do, you'll need to change out the links, and this is very important. So you just make sure that that About Us is highlighted. You're going back over to Properties. I'm going to scroll up. The text is About Us. You would take your privacy policy or your terms and conditions, whatever you choose to put here. This is very important to make sure that you replace the link, paste it there, and then you can dictate if you want it to pop up in this window or to generate in a new window. And then you would just go through the rest of these and change them. Please note that at any time you can go ahead and preview right up here, so you can see exactly what this is going to look like as you're clicking through. Another thing I want to point out over here is mobile views. This is very important for a lot of people. So you do have the option when you're editing. We do recommend, while you're building the page itself and going through all the edits, to just keep it on the desktop view. But then once you've got everything set in place the way that you want, you can start with the tablet view. Oftentimes there aren't many edits that need to be made in tablet because it does optimize quite well. But of course, if there were, you just take some time to sort of work through here, make those changes as you see fit. We do recommend, of course, having all of your most important information above the fold, which would be your headlines and your calls to actions. And then over here, you've got your mobile view. So in most cases, this is where you are going to be needing to make some edits, and I can show you how to do that. So you would scroll through here, and if you find a section that you want to eliminate, say maybe I'm going to get rid of this section because it stretches out pretty wide. I'm going to make sure that that's highlighted. I'm going to go over here to display. Right now it's on flex. I'm going to go to none. So it makes that section disappear on the mobile view. But if I go over to desktop, it's still there. So it does allow you to make edits in different places depending on what device you're going to be using. So now, since we've kind of covered the pre-quiz welcome page, I'm going to pop back over to Canvas, and I'm going to show you how to edit the lead capture pages. Just scroll out all the way. So a couple things when you get to the lead capture. So the lead capture section is a very important section. This is where you're asking for their contact information. So there's a couple ways you can approach this. We do recommend, if you're going to have 5 different buckets, to have 5 corresponding lead capture pages. And the reason we suggest that is because the lead capture is going to be specific to each bucket, because you're going to be teasing your results and then kind of prompting them, encouraging them to opt in and give their contact info so that they can get the full report from you, or the full explanation of what their results are. So I'm going to scroll in here to the first one. And what we recommend doing is popping in to edit, and then once you've made all of your changes, you can go down here and you can just duplicate all of these. So you don't have to go through each one and make all of these changes. You can just kind of set your core lead capture and then just duplicate it, and then go back in and make your minor changes. And I'll show you what some of those might be. And when you're using this template, you can have confidence in the fact that you really don't have to change a lot of this verbiage or the basic design or setup. You just make the tweaks that you need to so that it aligns with what you're doing in your business. So you can just say your quiz results, and then you would want to change this because chances are that's not going to make sense. And this is where you tease your results. And then you can just kind of change anything else. So wouldn't be wealth blocker. You would want to go ahead, content creator results. We are just asking for email. We recommend that you keep that the same as well. And then again, you can change out the button color. You can change this message if you want. We will not spam, rent, or sell your info. This is a little graphic. Again, if you don't have one, that's fine. You can just grab a stock image, anything that works there. But yeah, you would just go through and just keep in mind, you do have to, even if you're duplicating your lead captures, you would have to go in and change these results to correspond with each bucket. Something else I want to point out on that as well. So just because you're going into quiz results and changing this, like storyteller, and connecting it to lead capture 1, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to read as storyteller in your lead capture. So that's very important to note. So once you've got your lead capture pages set up, then you're going into your post-quiz outcome page. Again, you're going to click on edit. We recommend that you set up this first one, so kind of make all of the changes that you need to make first. We've got another countdown timer over here. Again, just highlighting each section, going into properties, changing out your colors, you know, me and my gray. Just hit OK, keep that. Change out this text as you need. Change out this image because that's probably not going to align with what you're doing. And then you want to go ahead and just update the outcomes. So this is the time when you're actually, because they've chosen to opt in, so now you're giving them their results. So you would just go ahead and take all of your different buckets that you have, transfer them over to your outcome pages. Here's a section for your video. And what you would do to add a video to a bucket page is basically you would host your video someplace like YouTube or Vimeo. And then there's just some information that you need to, excuse me. There's info that you take from those sites, and then you just paste it into Bucket. Excuse me. And then down here, you would want to make sure that you're updating this link. So this is going to be an external redirect. So this would be any place that you want to take them after they've already seen their results. Maybe you want to take them to a scheduling link to set up an appointment with you or anything like that. You just want to make sure that the link is highlighted. You're going to go to properties, scroll up, and again, click, to continue as your text. And maybe I would grab my Calendly link so that they could schedule something with me, or maybe it's, you know, to a webinar replay, whatever you choose to have, put your link there and then just have it populate in a new window. And again, down here at the footer, same as I showed you on the previous pages, making sure you're changing out all of these links. Any section that you need to delete, you just simply remove the whole thing. So that basically covers the builds. So I'm going to go back to Canvas. Excuse me. So once you've got everything set and you're confident with how this looks, you've kind of tested in your preview to make sure that your mapping over here is aligning with the correct buckets. You want to make sure that you double, triple, quadruple check this. I always recommend sending the preview link, which you can do. You click preview and you just grab that link. You can send that to family members, co-workers, friends, and have them just kind of click through, get their feedback, make sure you didn't miss any typos. Because prior to publishing, you just want to make sure that your funnel is set exactly the way that you want. And once you do get to that publishing point, once everything is set the way that you need, you just go over here to publish. You have one more decision to make and you have to select the domain. You have this drop down. This is basically what your URL is going to look like with a string of numbers and letters on the end. I'm going to pick this one and you just hit publish and your funnel is published. And you click here to copy the link. Just going to click back out of here. So that basically concludes this training on how to use the easy single question outcome mapping template in 2.0. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to visit our support center, which is accessible right up here. A lot of useful information here. One thing I do want to point out that is helpful is this recommended image size. That's a really good place to go just to kind of know when you're grabbing all of your different images, what sizes are going to work best in which template. So that concludes my training. Thank you so much.